I got promoted by my old boss, but lost my promotion as soon as my new boss got frustrated with me having mild hearing loss, and now I get to sit back and watch my coworker, who treats me like trash, suffer since she isn't good enough to replace me. I'm a teacher at a decently affluent public school. For the most part, I love my job. I've made genuine friends among staff members, and the students make the hard work worth it. There are, of course, the negative parts of teaching you always hear about: low pay, grading on off hours, etc., but for the most part, the deal has been good. A few years back, I was recognized by my old boss as a potential leader in the building. He stressed to me that I was very data-oriented and likable among my colleagues. I know my way around Google Sheets and Excel when it comes to collecting and organizing student data, and am really solid with parent communication. I was hesitant, but eventually I agreed and became a leader for a group of teachers and students at the school, in charge of organizing meetings, overall student educational success, etc. That old boss who promoted me left, and I was stuck with a new boss who I didn't know well. Here's where things get messy. I have sensory processing disorder and mild hearing loss. It's hard to explain, but sometimes I genuinely do not hear things correctly. Think if you said I'm going to pick up Stacy, I might hear something like I'm gone, just wait and see. This happens at least once a day and usually isn't that big of a deal. Unfortunately, it isn't curable, but I manage. In meetings with my new boss would push strategies that were based around focusing on students whose state test scores were almost passing. The idea was that you would focus on all students but give extra attention to these guys. These initiatives were never written down, and I would find out later that was because the legality of such a thing is iffy at best. When these ideas were shared with me, I would constantly ask the boss after the meeting to repeat herself and then check my notes to make sure I heard her correctly. I noticed at the time that she was passively frustrated that I would do this, even though I explained I had a hearing disorder. Looking back, I wonder if she felt pressured knowing what we were doing wasn't kosher and if I made a bad impression. Now to introduce the main character of the story, who I'll call Tenny, since she's the coach of the tennis team. Tenny is well liked by staff members for her years of service toward our community in a particular area. I also liked Tenny a lot and figured she'd be a great team member. Tenny, however, like my boss, became repeatedly frustrated when I would miss things she would say to me, especially in crowded high school hallways. Sometimes she would even shout something to me as she walked past me. This led to many gaffes and mistakes. I asked her repeatedly to pause and make sure I got what she was saying or just to email me. Nothing changed. There were at least 5 or 6 big moments that my hearing wasn't accommodated for when a simple email could have solved the problem. Just as one example, my new boss came into the hallway to let us know that an assembly location was being changed. We were to take the students to a new area, not the old one. Of course, I heard a change, but I didn't hear the location. Tenny was the only one nearby. I tapped my ear, which I usually do to indicate I didn't hear something, and asked where we were going. Tenny quickly responded and walked away, and I, once again, didn't understand. Cue me and my students walking into the assembly 5 minutes late after walking them around the building in confusion. My new boss asked what happened, and I told her simply that I didn't hear her correctly. Weeks later, I was called into a meeting with my new boss, and she told me that I was going to lose my leader position due to inconsistency and disrespect toward colleagues. I asked her which colleagues, and she told me that that was private. I asked her how I was disrespectful, and she said that sometimes you get frustrated when you say you can't hear things and tap your ear. I said that that was the ASL sign for hear, as in, I can't hear you. She said that I should have communicated that. I said that I've asked for written communication constantly. She said I shouldn't always expect it. I knew it was a losing game, and any explanation I would provide would just be shot down. I love the school and the community, and fighting new boss was only going to lead to more problems. I shouldn't have been surprised when a school-wide email went out that Tenny was getting the leader position. Tenny was praised by colleagues and reply-alls, and it was frustrating to say the least. I know that she was the one who complained, and it was extremely bitter for me to see her rewarded for it. Cue the next school year. Tenny comes into my room and asks me for the student data sheets that I created with Google Sheets. I told her, truthfully, that even if I did share them with her, that there wasn't anything she could do with them. I brought her over to my computer and showed her the formulas I worked with and how I needed to adjust them every time a new student, section, etc. was added to the roster. She then asked me if I could just continue updating these sheets outside of my leader position. I told her as professionally as possible that I would love to teach her how to do all of these things but would need a stipend to do so. She asked if any of the other leaders were doing what I did. I said they weren't. I was the only one and always had been. I'm a bit ashamed I didn't take joy in seeing Tenny's face go cold when she realized I wouldn't fold and there was nothing she could do except cope with hours of data work per year or become proficient with Sheets/Excel, something I knew she wasn't going to do. And the real kicker, the parents. Parents of students 99% of the time are a joy to work with. I really mean that. It's so fun to work with the parents of the people I care the most about. But it's the 1% that make your life a living hell. I have overheard Tenny complaining about being on the phone with a 1% parent for 45 minutes, losing her entire grading time. A call like that would have taken me about 5 minutes tops, since I have the experience of knowing how to stop circular arguments and get the parent on my side for an issue. What has taken me minutes is taking Tenny sometimes hours. Yes, she's getting my 1.5K stipend now, but I no longer have to deal with extra meetings, extra parent phone calls, miscommunication, etc. She's getting all the pain I got and more. I feel ashamed that I'm taking so much joy for this, but Tenny made my life hell in a place I otherwise love. Have fun, Tenny. Update. It's been a semester's worth of school, so I figured it's time for an update. To say that things have been going well for me has been an understatement. As several comments pointed out in my original post, my 1.5K a year stipend was not worth it. The mental load that left with my leadership position was enormous. I feel so much lighter now, and I've been able to use the time and energy I now have to devote into my community projects. I just feel like I'm overall a better teacher. I haven't taken home work once this semester. On the other hand, Tenny has been miserable. She's always one of the last teachers to go home, even in her coaching off-season, and she frequently cancels or forgets meetings. Unsurprisingly, Tenny has not been considerate of my hearing accommodation, now registered with the district. I keep my own meeting notes and show them to a trusted colleague after to see if I heard everything correctly. I usually get one or two things wrong. Recently, to my surprise, my boss had a staff-wide meeting where she pushed a shared meeting document and calendar practice among all of the teams. Tenny was visibly frustrated by this, but this is literally what I had been doing as a leader before and just seems to be a standard work practice in general. A trusted colleague told me after I uploaded my original post that Tenny and 2 other teachers were the ones who complained about my lack of preparation and inconsistencies to my boss. Since then, I have not spoken to those 2 other teachers unless necessary, but keep very friendly and pretend like I don't know that they threw me under the bus. One of these teachers I'll call Ben. I didn't find it relevant in the original post, but Tenny teaches the same middle school subject I do, English. So does Ben. Anyone familiar with education knows that English is one of the heaviest tested subjects. Our school is ride or die for state test scores like a lot of schools in the US, so we put a lot of work into making sure the kids get the highest test scores possible. Be sure to check your students' individual scores to see how you contributed to the increase. Folks, my students were the reason we saw the bump. Tenny's and Ben's scores were slightly lower from the previous year. My boss congratulated me privately, and my job review scores have been the highest of my career. Hilariously, my boss asked if I could share some of my strategies with Tenny and Ben. I said that of course I would, not an uncommon thing to share like this in teaching, FYI, but only shared the documents and nothing else. Tenny and Ben have not approached me to ask how I did it, and I like it that way. My favorite part of all of this? Because of the lack of funds, the leadership position is being eliminated at the start of the next school year, and our teams are being dissolved. Tenny went through all of that drama for just 1 year in the position. I'm trying my best not to relish in the news and just keep my mind focused on my own growth and the 95% of my colleagues who like and enjoy my company. My students are happier. I'm happier. I just got to keep my eyes on the positive and leave this behind me. Thanks to all for your kindness and support. And to anyone with a disability, get it in paper with your district so you don't go through all the pain I went through. Seriously.